Scientists are calling the Texas floods a textbook example of the impact of changing climate. And now Scripps News Group's business and tech correspondent Maura Barrett joins us with more. Maura, you visited a water research lab to understand the physics behind the intense storms. What did you find?
Well, Patrick, even though the region in Texas is known as Flash Flood Alley, the storms that caused the floods were anything but expected. Climate science actually pinpoints what made these floods so devastating.
Within days of the catastrophic Texas flooding, more heavy rain triggered dangerous floods across the country, water rushing through communities in New Mexico, North Carolina, and Chicago. Some of these disasters were called 1,000-year flood events, meaning there's a 0.1% chance of occurring any given year. But what if the past is no longer a reliable guide? Scientists say the whole idea of a 1,000-year flood no longer applies because climate change has moved the goalposts.
What we're seeing is extreme events much more frequently, and it doesn't get captured by the available statistics.
Quick physics lesson. When we burn fossil fuels, which we do to power our homes and vehicles, carbon dioxide is released into the atmosphere. That CO2 traps heat that otherwise should radiate out to space. That heat is the driver of hotter temperatures in the air and ocean. Warmer oceans evaporate faster, and warmer air holds more water in the form of humidity until it can't hold it any longer. Storms strike with that release. And CO2 isn't the only greenhouse gas that's involved in this process.
Methane, refrigerants, the things that we use in our air conditioners, in our fridges, things that are coming out of our agricultural systems and our industries. These are the super pollutants. They're both 10 to thousands of times more potent and powerful than CO2, but also last for less time in the atmosphere.
Kerr County, which took on the brunt of the floods, was also experiencing extreme to exceptional drought conditions. Those hotter air temps increase evaporation from the land and plants, making the terrain that much drier and then prone to more dangerous flooding.
We tend to get more intense precipitation, more rain in a shorter amount of time, and it overwhelms our stormwater infrastructure.
Professor Packman teaches civil environmental engineering and runs Northwestern's Water Research Lab, focusing on infrastructure solutions to reduce flooding.
The thing that we have the ability to do now that we haven't had before is much more information. What we need to expect is that there will be more floods in the future. We need to prepare for them, have better data availability, and design infrastructure specifically for future conditions.
There's also the opportunity for carbon containment, so the greenhouse gases don't get trapped in the atmosphere.
We can either start to decarbonize. We can also increase the drainage capacity. Most of the technology for permanent carbon dioxide removal is nascent, relatively small scale, and pretty expensive right now. So we need to buy ourselves time to develop in that.
Now, the key element to tracking the frequency of these weather events is data. And with the threat of more cuts to federal funding, scientists are anxious that a gap in that data could leave us even more vulnerable, Patrick.
And Maura, looking at other potential vulnerabilities, we understand that the EPA this week announced a proposal that argues the agency does not have the authority to regulate greenhouse gases. If that proposal goes through, how could it affect projects working toward the solutions that you just laid out?
Well, the proposal seeks to overturn what's called the endangerment finding, which is essentially what the federal government is able to use to take action to fight climate change, including regulating those harmful greenhouse gases. As you just saw in my piece, these are the types of emissions that turbocharge these types of disasters, but the Trump administration is trying to argue that they're not a threat. Now, this proposal is expected to face legal challenges, but if it does take effect, it'll just be the latest step in President Trump's effort to roll back former President Biden's aggressive climate agenda, and it will make it that much more difficult for future administrations to tackle greenhouse gas pollution. Patrick.
All right, Scripps News business and tech correspondent Maura Barrett. Maura, thank you.